Okay, so Nancy, do you believe that a criminal can pay his or her debt to society?
I believe the criminal can pay his debt to society, but mostly I think it depends on the type of crime. If they did a small crime, like they passed a red light and they got a ticket, then obviously, yes, it's easy, they could pay back to society. But if they did a bigger crime, like killing somebody or raping somebody, it's kind of hard to say. Like, society might not think that they repaid their debt if they went to jail for a long time. But if the criminal changes and is helping like other people not to do the same crime that he did, then yeah, I think he can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so just like Nancy said, I do believe that a criminal can pay his or her debt to society, just depending on the situation. So if this person at maybe 15 or 16 decided to steal a keychain at the store, then obviously they can pay their debt back to society by paying it back, during community service, stuff like that. But the situation changes if a person is murdered. You can never bring back a person's life, and I believe that is a time where you cannot pay your debt back to society. Also, it all depends on the society. If you spend 10 or 15 years in prison, they may not believe that you can ever pay back your debt if you did some really bad crime. So that is what I believe.
I think my feelings on this matter are very similar to other people, that it really depends on the circumstance. If it is a minor crime, somebody's busted for doing drugs, okay, obviously they can get clean, they can do a year or 2 years, whatever it is, they can get out, make restitution to society, and become a contributing member to society again. However, if you have someone that murders or rapes somebody, the damage that they do, I don't know how you'd fix something like that. If you kill somebody, obviously you can't bring somebody back from the dead. If that person you killed has children, you forever damage those children because now they don't have a parent to raise them. Maybe they won't become the person they were meant to be because of that damage. If you rape somebody, again, that person is so damaged, who knows if they'll ever be able to be whole. Yes, that person can change. The person that did the murder can change and ask for forgiveness and try and do good. But again, they can never fully repay the damage that they've done.
Thank you. Hello there, my name is Jessica Holman, and here today we will be interviewing Christian about what he thinks whether a criminal can repay his debt back to society. So Christian, do you believe that this is true?
No, I really don't think so, because an action's an action, regardless what it was. I mean, people do say, if you take a life, you should give a life, or something like that. I don't think that's true, honestly, because then that's just more chaos and whatnot. And I truly, you can't really repay your debt to society.
All right, thank you, Christian.
I disagree with that statement. On one hand, you can't undo what's been done. If you violate someone's home and steal stuff from them, or you assault someone or intimidate them, or if you kill someone, you can't go back and erase what you've done. But to say you can never really repay your debt to society, I think leaves us with a hopeless world. And I like to have hope about things. Our prison system obviously is not a model of this happening, because it's kind of a disaster. I mean, there are success stories, but usually it winds up being just a furthering of criminal mentality and brutality and stuff like that. So that isn't currently working. Reparation, whereby the court orders someone to pay back money they've stolen or damage they've done. I mean, while that restores finances, it doesn't really heal the person. But having said that, I'd probably like to use my life as an example. I was basically a screw-up as a teenager in many different ways, including in school. Although I always did my English homework, which helped when I was an English major in college, I was expelled from my prep school and almost flunked out of Boston College because I was a jerk, including being a jerk to my teachers. So that I can't go back and change that, giving them a hard time, making their lives miserable, making my 11th grade physics teacher, who was a brand new 22-year-old teacher, cry every day because our class was so miserable. But now it's kind of a different deal. For 23 years I've been a teacher, and in a way, I think because I was such a bad student, that now I'm a better teacher, because I get it, what it's like to sit out there in those desks and not really give a rat's ass about what the teacher's saying, not doing homework, having an attitude because of personal problems in my family, of which there were many. When you look up dysfunctional in the dictionary, it had my family photo in it. But I think I get that. I think I get it, what it's like to sit out there and everybody expecting you just go get A's, go do your homework, go do this, go do that, when you're either angry about something or discouraged about something. And so I kind of think that the 23 years I've been teaching in DPS, well, I haven't undone making my teachers' lives miserable in high school. I've kind of been sewing into young kids' lives and understanding them a little bit, and maybe getting it with them, supporting them. And I'd like to think that, for maybe the 25 years I was a jerk, the last 40 years of being a little kinder, being understanding, and helping young people, or trying to help kind of everybody, and walk in kindness, has kind of tipped the scale the other way. So while my behavior wasn't always criminal, although sometimes it was, and we won't go into that, I think in general, I think you can turn it around, and you can, as you approach, the end of your life, look at things and say, when it all balances out, I did a lot more good than harm, and whereas it was going in a bad direction before, now it's going in a better direction, and I think that's hopeful to me, and I think maybe hopeful to young people who are kind of maybe 15 or 17 or 25 and are screwing up, that it isn't over, that you got hopefully 75 years on the planet to make things happen. So, long story short, I believe that statement's false, and I'm hopeful about it being proved false in a lot of young people's lives.
Thank you.
Can a criminal ever truly repay his or her debt to society?
My answer is yes. But I think the ethical aspect of it is more than can the criminal pay the debt to society, can the criminal repay the debt to the victim of, or victims of his criminality. And I believe that what needs to happen is the criminal needs to ask forgiveness from the victim, assuming that he can, in fact, contact the victim. In the case of murder, that becomes more difficult. So the victim would have to ask forgiveness from the family of the victim, and would also need to look into his own soul as to whether he was or she was truly repentant for what they did. So there's the elements of the victim, there's the elements of society as a whole, which would be the government, certainly resulting in prison sentences, monetary restitution, etc. And then there's the essence of the true repentance of the perpetrator of the criminal act. So that's my answer.
Caitlin, do you believe that a criminal could ever truly repay his debt to society?
I think that it really depends on the crime. I think that if you're put in jail for stealing, and if you stole a couple cans of soup from the supermarket, then it's not, I think that you can repay that debt because you didn't cause any lasting harm to someone. But if you did something like you murdered someone, then that would be different because you affected people's lives in a way that can't ever be returned to what they were.
So this is my mom, Chris Holman, and she is here to tell us her answer about the question, do you think that a criminal can pay his or her debt back to society? So what do you think?
I think some of them can. I think it's going to depend on the crime. If it's murder, no, they can't pay that back because they've taken someone's life, and there's no way to pay that back. If it's, theft, yeah, they could possibly pay it back. You do the crime, you do the crime, you pay the time. You do the crime, you pay the time. So, in those cases, yeah, they possibly could pay their, debt to society. Truly, I think it all depends on, one, the crime, the severity of the crime, and two, the person. Some people can never pay back, can never be fixed. They're bad, they're sick, and can't ever be helped.
Like a murderer?
Well,
Do you think a murderer could pay his or her debt to society?
I think if it was self-defense, absolutely.
But if it was out of cold blood, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
All right.
I don't think so. How do you pay that back? You took someone's life. You can't pay it back.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So, the real reason that we have been doing these interviews is to bring it back to the current subject, which is about down these mean streets and whether we believe that Peary Thomas paid his debt back to society. Well, personally, I don't believe that he did. He was a criminal and he did do a lot of bad things, and yes, I do believe that he did change, but he shot a cop. And I don't think he had a valid enough reason to shoot a cop because the cop wasn't beating him up. He wasn't doing anything but protecting the bar that they were about to rob. So even though Peary did pay his time in jail, and yes, I think to a certain extent he may have paid his debt back to society, I don't think that the society is ever going to forgive him for what he did because shooting a cop is a huge no-no.
Okay, so I believe that Peary Thomas did pay his debt to society, but I believe that he didn't completely repay his debt to the cop that he shot and his family. Obviously, Peary changed and he wrote a book, and I think that book inspired maybe lots of people to see that even if you're from the ghetto or even if you're in a poor place or a rock bottom place, you can get out there and do something with your life. You don't have to follow the path that he did, and I think that's actually going to inspire a lot of youth this generation. But at the same time, I think the cop's family never fully regained their peace. I think it's still something that hurts them, and that's why I kind of believe he didn't repay his debt to the family, but he did to society.